This is my favorite exercise in creating internal conflict. How, have you ever, what does it feel like to love somebody? It feels like this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. What would you do to somebody who tried to hurt them or hurt them? Oh, I'd kill them, blah, 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 blah. Great. What if you were the one that hurt them? And then I can always see every time I see the actor's kind of brain and emotions shatter in a million pieces, because it's like, it's easy to go, I love this person and I would protect them like a child. If I had, if you have a child, I would protect them and I'd never let anybody hurt them. What if you hurt them? What if you broke their heart? And then it's just this, you can just see the heart and the guts just twisting up inside. That's internal conflict. If you can apply that to your work, number one, you'll be amazed at what comes out and what you discover in your work and in yourself. But number two, like, nobody's going to be able to compete with that. All right. Now I'm off. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Welcome to another Empower Yourself Sustaining Actor weekly call, where we discuss all different topics in and around acting, the craft, the industry, mindset, kind of whatever technique, which we're going to talk about today, kind of open forum in a sense. And, anybody who has any questions can ask questions as well. That always leads to a good discussion. So far, we've covered mindset, relationships, connecting to relationships within the script. Talked about how, not chasing down perceived opportunities, but being patient and really honing your craft and knowing that your we call don't chase the waves, knowing that your waves are going to come. Talk about taking risks. And last week we actually had a kind of impromptu, I had a plan, but then a discussion started with one of the guests, or not, he didn't start as a guest, as one of the participants, Seth, which led into a great conversation just about, I don't know, we kind of covered a lot of stuff, manifestation and mindset and all in and around the acting industry, things like that. So that was really good. I actually am behind. I didn't get that one sent out because personally, and I've shared this with the group, with this in this forum, that like the struggles I've been going through personally in and around just being motivated to create our own opportunities and things like that, and the resistance that comes with that, which is it's real, man. I mean, I've kind of hit a place where I think a lot of people have, actually, because the more conversations I've been having recently, a lot of people are going through it right now. And people who, like myself, have been like hitting the pavement pretty hard for years, or not necessarily years in like the length of time they've been doing it, but they've been, in the past, their habit has been like to really go at it and really, put in the work. A lot of, I think the consciousness of the world is shifting. I know it is. And I'll say this because the more movies I watch, I just watched Thor: Love and Thunder. It came out yesterday, but I also watched this movie on Netflix. It was like called Sea Monster or something like that. It's animated. But the whole, both films really have discussed like getting back to honoring ourselves. The sea monster one particularly was talking about how it's really good. Like, and this is how I know consciousness is shifting, because it's making into commercial media, in a sense of like our entertainment, things like that. And I talked about this kind of, I think it was towards the end of last week's lesson, where, I discussed just how ancient Egyptians looked at artists or storytellers as creators. I think it was creators, like the highest honor. They gave them the highest honor in our society. A lot of times we feel shameful to say we're an actor, director, writer, or something like that, because in our society, that's kind of like the bottom of the totem, the food chain or whatever. But it was interesting in this movie. I think it was called The Sea Monster. I forget what it's called, but Carl Urban was the lead male in that, if you want to look it up, and Jared Harris as well. But man, like the whole thing with the little girl, what she represented was the new consciousness coming in, and she discovered like all these tales she learned about sea monsters that these hunters would go out and hunt and everything to supposedly protect the society, the people. She discovered that all the books had been written by the monarch, by the king and queen, and all the king and queens prior. And the whole discussion in this second, third act was basically, these people get to dictate the history that we base our ideologies off of, that we base our lives off of. Actually, it's weird. I was just watching this show. It's a crazy, ridiculous show, but Our Flag Means Death. It's a comedy by Taika Waititi, if I'm saying that right. Taika Waititi, believe so. But they do a flashback. He plays Blackbeard, and they do a flashback to his character where he's young and he like dreams of being wealthy and living, with silks and things like that. And his mom's like, oh, and God chose these people and things like that, and we're not chosen. So therefore, like he's the best pirate, but he really just wants to be accepted into high society. So we're starting to see these stories, which I love, and why I reiterate how important it is for us as artists to tell our stories, because there's so many perspectives that haven't been told, or haven't been allowed to be told in the past, that now there's as the generations change, the audience, the machine will always feed the where the money is, which is always the new generation, the teenagers. That's why like action films and music, pop music and everything, it always serves, and I forget what the age group is. I learned this in film school, but like it's like boys 11 to 16 or something like that, and girls, I think it's like 13 to 18 or something like that. I forget, but there's like these target groups that they make movies for, like most movies, which is changing. We're seeing that more when we see like a Grace and Frankie, and we see so many. I don't know if I mentioned it in another one of these, but there's a great film with I cannot remember her name, and I have to look it up, because I love her, and I think she's great, and Emma Thompson. I don't know why I blank her name, but Emma Thompson, and she's an older woman whose husband died, and she hires a I'm gonna look this one up because people need to watch that too. She's an older woman. She hires a young prostitute to sleep with her because her husband has died. She hasn't really had made love to anybody or had physical contact with anybody other than her husband her whole life. And there's things that he didn't want to do. It's a great story. You got to watch it. But to see that she being in her older years now, where traditionally it's called Good Luck to You, Leo Grand. That's the movie. Traditionally, stories about older characters, Hollywood has not been kind to. Like, once you reach a certain age, we usher in the new, and we don't talk about age and death and things like that. But man, it's like there's so many great things going on, which is why I know consciousness in the world is shifting, because we only serve the demand, right? And that's how things change. That's where I personally feel like in the world, even our votes count. It's not really electoral anymore. It's monetary, and maybe it probably always has. Well, ever since capitalism, in a sense, but I don't think that really works in monarchs. But we vote with our dollars, and with the new generations coming up that want to have discussions and openly discuss things that haven't been accepted in the past, that opens the door for us as artists to tell more stories and tell more perspectives and explore more. And that's what excites me about where our industry is now and where it's going. I've noticed this. Trend where you have the male protagonist with a young girl that he has to save, protect, and then they end up working together, and they irritate each other. And it's funny because I wrote a short film some years ago, and we actually filmed it as a short. I was writing it as a feature called Hard Knocks, which we actually shot, and it's on our website, aholeproductions.com. You can watch it, but I was like writing that because I love the film Paper Moon, and that's the kind of relationship they had. But like, and I always loved that. I always wanted to do a film like that. But it's like happening everywhere now, and they get to the younger kid, actually, instead of the older protagonist forcing the younger child to see their perspective of the world or whatever. The younger kid actually challenges them, is now teaching them. That's what it was great about that Sea Monster movie. Actually, I'm going to look that up right now so that people can watch it. But let's see, it is called The Sea Beast. Yeah, it's called The Sea Beast. It's on Netflix right now. If you're watching this anytime soon, it's July 9th, 2022, by the way. So anyways, so my personal is like, I share this because I know other people are going through it, and because most people don't talk about this, like, especially in our industry, everybody's like, we as artists get together and everybody's like, oh, everything's good. I got a new manager. I got this, I got that. And, much like society, we don't talk about our struggles and things like that because we feel it's a sign of weakness, or people won't want to work with us or whatever. And that's not what this is for. This is not a resume or anything for me. This is to help people, or to share information. So I've been doing a lot of self-work in and around my mindset and limited beliefs and things like that have held me back. And I've talked about that before, about how I've sabotaged myself when opportunities have come along. And I'm working to release those traumas and those blocks that hold me back from accepting my value and accept opportunities and accept, what I really want in my life and my career creatively, and to believe that I not only can have them, but deserve them. And those are big, but in doing so, it's like brought up a lot of a lot of things. Too much. I don't want to waste, or not waste. I don't want to take up today's time talking about it, but I've had a lot of resistance around creating. Traditionally, I've been the one to push through and just create and go, no, I'm not going to let this thing, get the best of me. But because that's my habit, I'm backing off. In doing so, and backing off means not that I'm not doing anything, but I'm resting. I'm watching more TV and films, which normally I don't do. I mean, I do, but not as much as I have been. But I do it from a perspective of, for me, for the common, you know, I shouldn't say common, but the people outside of our industry, that's just, you know, numbing the brain and entertainment away. For me, it's education, because in our industry, like, that's education, because we learn from our peers. So I'm allowing myself a break in a sense, but I'm still, like, in doing so, a lot of ideas have been coming up, and a lot of inspiration has come through me, but I just don't have the drive to implement it yet. And so, and I'm learning to be okay with that, because, one thing is, what I've been doing isn't working. Like, it's gotten me to where I am, to a point, but not where I want to go. So I got to learn new techniques, new habits all around. So I'm trying this thing for the first time in my life, where I'm, like, doing less work. And it's interesting. It's been an interesting journey. But in saying that, if you're somebody who traditionally procrastinates and puts things off and doesn't take action, then maybe you should be taking action and not doing that. My thing has been to always grind and hustle. And, I even at one point had, I was branding, not really I kind of branded myself on accident, but Hustle Harv. And people still call me that to some, but I look back at that, I'm like, yeah, man, like, hustle, like, it shouldn't be a hustle. It should be an enjoyment and a journey. So anyways, I share that. So if anybody else is out there struggling and going through a tough time creatively or just personally and things like that, like, the world is in flux in so many ways. And I don't even look at the news or social media. I took social media off my phone. I put it on another phone because I didn't like the idea of Facebook being able to have access to my phone, as they said they would if you kept their apps on. So I did it for that. And once I took it off my main phone, like, I don't really use it. I rarely use it. And I've used it, if anything, the most in the past 2 years, just to post these links to these videos. But I'm not even paying attention to the world right now. And yet I'm still going through a lot. So so people out there that are paying attention to the world, and, I'm sure, you're definitely feeling it. So the world's in flux. Make sure, number one, you disconnect from it once in a while, even if you choose to participate in that. Make sure you disconnect from it. Go have fun. Do things that that you enjoy doing, that have no benefit other than actually doing them. And, as being in this industry, it's so easy to get caught up in that whole, like, and that's part of why I've taken the break, because I had to break that habit of, every time I would approach an idea or a project, I was looking at it from, what's the outcome? Is it going to get me a better agent? Is it going to make me more money? Is it going to make me, more celebrity, in the sense of, like, more people know who I am? And, how's it going to benefit me on the back end? And I lost the joy of actually doing things, because I wasn't doing it for the joy of doing it. I was doing it for the outcome. So make sure you take time to enjoy life and do things that have no outcome. It's just the experience of doing them. It's very important, and if that's just watching a movie or a TV show, or, going for a walk, or whatever it is, resetting. So, but anyways, I don't really remember why I started on that rant. But what I want to talk about today is, let me double check what I want to talk about today is, oh yeah. So this was in a coaching that happened just the other day. And as I was going through it, I was like, this is a great discussion that I love talking about. It's one of my favorite. And so I wanted to share it with the community. And it kind of built off what we talked about in episode 2 about relationships, and how to build relationships. We hear a lot of times in life, but in our work, about inner conflict, right? And I've always been fascinated in creating inner conflict within my characters, whether I'm the actor or the director, but I love, or the teach, when I'm in the teaching position, it adds so much depth. And it makes, for me, it makes a character go from like a 2-dimensional to a 3-dimensional character by creating internal conflict. And it's really not that difficult to do. But the reason it becomes 3-dimensional is because we innately, as human beings, like even as I discussed, like what I'm going through right now in my personal life, is an internal conflict. Like there's no external conflict that's happening to me right now. But prior to even getting on this, like I had resistance of getting up and doing this, just because I was like, I'm tired and I'm just burnt out. But I was like, no, I committed to this thing. I promised myself that I would do this every week. But there wasn't like somebody standing on my chest stopping me from getting up and doing this and hooking up the computer and everything. And there's nobody stopping me from going out and filming these projects I want to film. It's all up here. It's the internal conflict. And we feel that because we're all going through it. We all feel that. And when an actor brings that to a character, you see it with Thanos. I bring up Thanos a lot. I thought Thanos was a great character because once it revealed the reason he was doing what he was doing, he wasn't really the bad guy. I mean, he was, because of what he was doing, but his purpose, the reasoning behind it, was definitely an internal conflict. He wanted to the reason he wanted to kill off half of the universe was to save the other half. So that's why, I mean, I feel we resonate with internal conflict for that reason. So how do we create that authentically without being like, oh, I'm so internally conflicted, like that's, I don't know, that's how I see actors when we're acting, when we're turning it on. That's how I see it, is that we're going, oh, this is what internal conflict looks like. And I'm so angry, or I'm so happy, I don't know. That's just how it shows up in my head. But it's really simple. If we go back to what I discussed in the second episode of relationships, just to kind of recap, I talk about is that you find a relationship within the script that your character has, right? And you go, whether it's a person or a thing, you have a relationship to it. And I know a lot of people sit there and go, oh, relationship to things, but it's like, yeah, look at your real life. If I took your laptop, your, $1,500 Apple laptop, and threw it out of a moving car, you'd get upset. It's like, because you got attachment to it, like whether it's the information on it or the physical computer itself, whatever. Some people would be more upset about that than, if I slapped their mom. So when that tells you about your relationship to your mom. So we have relationships to everything in the script, in the world. Our character does, to clarify. And so if you establish and clarify what each of those relationships are, and it makes sense to you, you then are living, you are the character living in the world, right? Because you, as who you are, don't live in that world and don't have relationships to those things. So you're not that character in your present form right now of who you are. You're the character in your world and all the relationships you have. So if you go, okay, this character has a mom, has a dad, has a job, has these, friends, and has a car, and has a house, an apartment, all these things. And if you understand their relationship to those things, you are now that character. That's the gist of it, in a sense. And go back and watch episode 2, where I explain this further. But to create the internal before I get to that, so what you want to do is you go, let's say your mom. I don't know why moms are on my brain today, but it's a good go-to because it triggers us, good or bad. So so you go to your mom, like the character has a mom, and you say, who is she? She's my mom. How do I feel about her? I love her. Why do I love her? I love her because when I was a kid, she worked night and day to make sure that, I had clothes and food, and, she'd take me to movies, and she'd get me out of school, once a month. I get to skip school, and she'd take me to a movie, or something like that. And you go down and basically build the past through that. Who are they? How do I feel about them, and why? And you keep digging into that to create internal conflict, right? Because that's just to say, I love my mom because all these things. And we do. We love her, most people do say, I love my mom. However, we always go, if I was to honestly say, how do you feel about your mom? If you had a good relationship with your mom, you say, I love my mom, comma, but she irritates me, or she drives me nuts when she does this or whatever. The comma, but is the other side of it that starts to create the internal conflict. So if you're utilizing the same breakdown, who are they? How do I feel about them? Why? You go through and you say, who are they? They're my mom. How do you feel about them? I love her. Why do I love her? I love her for all these reasons. And you write that out, and you make it a very clear history that you can attach to and understand. And again, remember that when you create this, it may or may not be in the script. If it's in the script, if there's backstory in the script, you can use it if it resonates with you. If not, make up whatever resonates with you to the point that justifies what this character is going through, that makes sense to you. Because again, remember, the audience will never know what you're going through. They'll never know what you're let me take that. The audience will never know what you're connecting to fulfill the scene, to fulfill the emotion, right? And I say this all the time, is like, if you had to look at if you were like, actors have to do it all the time on sets with green screen, and they have to connect with something that's not there. Or if you have to look at a wall that's a white wall, and you have to go, God, that's so beautiful. And you look at it and you're like, that's not beautiful. It's just a plain white wall. But if you were to think about how you feel about your favorite color, which is maybe like, let's say blue or burnt orange. That's my new one now, is burnt orange. And you go, oh man, what do I love about burnt orange, man? It's this cool kind of like red orange. It's like, it kind of gives me the vintage feel, and you connect to that. And then you look and you go, God, that's a beautiful color. I'm thinking about the burnt orange. I'm not thinking about the white wall. But when it's edited together, showing me, go, God, that's so beautiful. And then the camera cuts to the white wall, the audience is going to go, man, he loves that white wall. So the audience isn't going to know what you're connecting to. So you go through and you go, who are they? She's my mom. How do I feel about her? I love her. Why do I love her? I love her for all these reasons. The internal conflict comes in when you go, however, I also don't like my mom. Okay, what don't I like about her? And you go through all the things that you don't like about your mom, or whatever the relationship is. Again, I'm just using the mom as an example right now, but it could be anything, like my laptop that I'm working on right now. I love this laptop. I've had it for 5 or 6 years. Works great. And I could tell you all my, why, I love it. My sister bought it for me at a time that, I needed it, and she was able to support me and help me out. And she did it as a surprise. Um, it's gone everywhere through me. It's got dents and all kinds of stories that go with it. But what I don't like about it is when it like takes its time, because it's getting older now. It takes its time, or shuts off, or it has these problems, and it irritates me. So I have this complete relationship with it on both sides. It's not just one way. So when you're looking at love and hate and everything in between, like that's the thing is when you're creating really deep characters, you can look at them as good guys, you can look at them as bad guys, it's all perspective. But if you look at the relationships that they have with their world, you look at what do they love and why do they love it. The audition that I was working on, which I can't give away the details, but basically this character was was a military person who had trauma and like was just drinking their life and career away in a sense. However, when I looked at the script, I explained to the actor who was working on it, I'm like, look, and it even says in there, like, they drink and they hide it, they hide the drink, they sneak it whenever they can. It's how they get through their day. But I'm trying not to give the information away without, but still make the point. But the character was in this turmoil, and it stated in the breakdown that an event happened, an accident happened where they weren't held accountable. They were actually rewarded for the accident of hurting people. And so I was explaining to the actor, I was like, look, man, the only way that this person would be so tortured and to the where they would be miserable in life and not and drink to numb it would be because they cared so much prior to the incident. And this is what I say all the time, is like, it's a sliding scale that slides both ways. So like the more you love somebody, the more when they do something to you, you'll hate them, right? And that's why if a homeless person or a stranger calls you an asshole on the street, you're just like, whatever, dude. But if your mom was to do it, it would hurt you. And so if you are doing a scene where your character is like vengeful and angry, and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to be angry. Don't start with the hate, start with the love. Go back, because if you care about the more you care about something and then think about something happening or it being taken away, then the anger and the vengeance and all that will come out of it, right? I mean, think about that. All the times you've ever been furious and upset, what was at the heart of that? It was somebody stealing something you cared about. It was somebody breaking your heart, your love. It was something taken away from you. Maybe even your parents, things like that. The trust, whatever it was. But it started as love. Now, if you didn't care, if I took that same thing about throwing your laptop out the window, if you like didn't care, maybe you had 4 laptops and that was you're just like, I don't care, I was going to throw that thing away anyways. You'd be like, whatever, thanks for doing me a favor. It wouldn't affect you the same way if it was like your lifeline to your career and to your business, and I threw it out of a moving car, right? So to create this internal conflict, you have to have both the love and the hate. And that's going through and establishing the love and the hate, both sides, with with your relationship. And now I say love and hate, but there's all the things in between. You go, I love my mom for all these reasons. I hate my mom for all these reasons, but she also irritates me, but she makes me laugh. Like there's all these other emotions at both that are in between both ends of that scale. But those are the two that, and I say all this because if you got to go into an audition very quickly, or you go to an audition and they ask and they love you and then they want you to read for another character, that if you can just create a couple things you love about a relationship that the character has and a couple things that you hate about them, then you have this well-rounded character. So going back to what I was talking about in this coaching was basically is like the way to justify your character authentically, like to where people believe the performance, is for you to not try to hate and try to be angry and try to be like, oh, look at me drink. It would be to go back before all that and establish how much you cared about your job, how much you cared about human beings, how much you like cared about being in the military, how much you cared about and maybe like how much you cared about taking care of your body. And that's why you actually didn't drink that often and everything. And now after this event, this traumatic event happened that broke you, the more you care over here at the beginning, the more it's equally, the pendulum's going to swing the other way, and you're going to get that anger, and you're going to get that sadness, and you're going to get just all those emotions that come up that create that inner conflict, right? And I know that this makes sense because we go through it in our lives. I mean, just think about that. How many times in your life have you been just furiously angry or wanted to hurt somebody? I mean, people do it in traffic all the time, like here in LA. Like people, it happens to me. Like I try to be a Zen person, but sometimes people like do things in traffic and it just fires me up. And it fires me up because whether it's like yesterday, I was following my partner. She was on our scooter and I was following her in the car, and like a guy cuts right in front of her and puts her at risk. And I was just like rage filled. I was just like, who the fuck do you think you are, man? Like that it's because it's somebody I cared about was put at risk. And therefore I was willing to, hurt another human being for a split second there, or having my heart broken, or having, somebody that I trusted, or, there's been multiple times that I've worked on, put my heart and soul into projects with people who have taken advantage of me, who have done everything possible to destroy the project, to destroy my name, things like that. And it hurt so much because I cared so much about the person, because I cared so much about the project. If I didn't care, I would have been like, whatever, like I wouldn't have lost any sleep over it. Your characters are the same way. They are going through things. And if you want to make them a well-rounded character, if you want to give them depth, and, I say this as actors, but this is writing too. This is directing. Give them things they love, give them things they hate. Give them something to love and then take it away. Right? So there's so many examples of it in cinema, but you go back to the Thanos thing. Like Thanos, when we first meet him, he's the bad guy. He's like he's like, we're told he's the bad guy. Thanos is coming, and we even see him briefly, and he's like, I'm going to come and I'm going to destroy everything. But when we really get to meet him and get him, vulnerable, and he shares that he just wants to, he doesn't want to be this person, but he cares so much about life and loves so much that he's willing to be the bad guy, to do the bad thing to help everybody else. And you feel that as a human being, because like we go through that. I mean, it's interesting how many people that like are seen as the bad people in the world, and they like, I'm not taking away, like people do terrible, evil things in the world, but when you really sit down with them, and I'm not talking about like sociopaths or psychopaths, I don't know what the right term is, but people who are just disconnected from reality in a sense, like they don't understand, um, they don't have morals, they don't have a moral compass in any way. I'm talking about like the average everyday Joe who gets pushed or like snaps one day and like, goes on a shooting spree or gets in a altercation in a bar fight or, something like that. If you look back, it's because something they cared about was taken away from them or jeopardized. And, we get entertained by this in media, but, we get entertained by this, especially in films. Like that's what films and TV are all about, right? Is the hero's journey, is that the characters are going on a journey because they care about something. Even if they're the bad guy, they care about, winning for whatever reason, because it's going to be a better world. This new Thor, I thought the Christian Bale, the bad guy, if you will, character had such a great, he has such a great origin story of why he starts his journey that puts us on the path. And I'm not going to give it away. You should watch it, but it's so good because it's so human. Unlike a lot of these other bad guys that we've met along, bad people that we met along the way, that like have justification for why they do what they do. I think this is the best one yet because it's just such a human response and it's mystical powers are given, received, or it's a that, but the the reason he starts on his journey, it's so grounded in just the human conscious, the human emotion and response. And so therefore the whole time when you're watching the journey, you're like, man, from the characters who who didn't see his story, they're like, oh, this guy's bad. But from the audience who saw how it all started, you're like, I get it. Like, again, I don't agree with it, but I totally, he's not really a bad guy in the way that we're brought, we were raised to think there's a good guy. Like you're either born good or you're born bad. Like, no, like I find it interesting when I teach classes that, it's usually the women, the soft, especially soft-spoken women who, when I'm like, they got to do these heavy scenes where they got to get violent, they're just like, I don't want to, I would never hurt anybody. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, I'm not, I don't, whether it's they don't think they're powerful enough to hurt somebody, or they're just like, they're like, I care about people. I'm a lover and things like that. And I say that because it's usually these petite young girl, or I shouldn't say young, but these petite girls with these soft voices who then become, after I do this exercise, become the lioness. That's why I laugh, because it's like, it's this massive compared to a guy who's already kind of threatening in a way. But so it happens all over, but it's always funny when I'm like, so you wouldn't hurt anybody? Like, no, I'm a lover. I'm all about, I hug trees and I thank the clouds and things like that. And that's great. I'm like, but do you have nieces? Do you have kids? And they're like, no, or maybe some do, but it's usually, do you have a niece or nephew? And they're like, yeah. And yeah, what if somebody was to kidnap them and torture them and hurt them for weeks on end, and then, kill them slowly. And then all of a sudden this rage comes up and you can just see the switch and they're like, I'd kill him. And it's like 2 seconds before they're like, no, I've never heard anything. And I'm like, so the potential's in you, right? Under the right circumstances. So then if somebody was to hurt your niece or nephew and then that person got off, they weren't put in jail or punished or anything, what would you do? And they're like, I'd hunt him down and I'd kill him. Okay, so are you the bad guy now? In a way, and from one perspective, you're the bad guy. But from the other perspective, and and I'm sure a lot of people, whether they'll admit it or not, would say, no, that's justice, So, you're just eye for an eye. So you're looking to create that internal conflict through the relationships and through your character choices. Like, what do I love? And let's say the story starts where you're already on your vengeful path, where your character's already, like with this coaching, already an alcoholic, already doesn't give a shit about their life or career or anything else. But let's say we never actually get to see, as an audience, we never get to see the backstory to that. And maybe it's alluded in the script a little bit, but let's say worst case scenario, it's not. Then you can easily assume that if they hate this thing so much or this person so much, at the other end of the spectrum, they either loved that thing or that person and then something happened, or they loved someone else or something else that this person or this event took away or threatened. So just to say that again, if your character hates someone or something and is just like, I have to kill this person, I have to kill, like, screw her, I hate her. Like, it doesn't even have to be a kill, but like, I hate something. Then in order for them to, at whatever level of hate or anger or disgust or, whatever that is, then you go back and establish at least, at minimal, the equal amount of love for that thing or something that thing took away. And if you do that and lock it into your body, and I'll just to quickly give you that, I'll give that to you a sec. If you lock that into your body, then it's there. And now you don't have to act it. It's showing up. Just as you say, whether you're reading the lines or you already have the lines and you're just saying them in a scene, all that internal conflict is showing up in your little mannerisms, in your subtext. I wish I could use this coaching as an example, but it hasn't been filmed. The project hasn't been released yet. So, because it's such a great example, but yeah. So to lock it in your body, I'll have to go into this in another one because we're almost up for time. But basically, what I have found effective is that you go, well, my character loves this thing or hates this thing. I go, okay, what's it like to love? I always ask, do you know what it's like to be in love? People go, yeah. I'll go, okay, what does it feel like? And they go in, they're like, oh, it feels like this, it feels like that. And they'll explain. And what they're doing, what I'm asking them to do is recall not the memory, but the emotion of what love to be in love feels like. Because I know there's like in some of the method acting, one of the techniques is recall. And I don't personally believe in, like, I don't like doing that because you're just bringing up past trauma and things like that. To me, that's not helpful. But what is useful is recalling the feeling. So when I go, I don't, you ever been in love with somebody? Yeah. And they're like, and if somebody's like, yeah, well, tell me about that relationship. I don't do that, because I find then what you're doing is, instead of the actor being able to stay connected to, or you connect to the script, they're connecting to their past, their own life, and their brain, and they get stuck in that story, right? They're in that screenplay, not the one you're trying to get them into. So what you do is you go, well, I know what it's like. What does it feel like to be in love? And you go back and you remember the feeling of being in love. And what I have found is, if you put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath and release it, not that's not releasing it, that's forcing a breath out. And you drop your shoulders as you breathe out, and you just think about, and you say, what's it like to be in love? Well, you can't, there's no one else you think about, and like everybody in the world else in the world disappears, and you go through the emotions, or explaining what it feels like to be in love. And I go, and then once you feel that, and you can feel it like, oh, there it is, because you probably don't want to step into it. You try to, oh, I need to do dishes now, or something like that, or I need to talk. Once you get that there, then you go, and then I ask, what's it like to lose that thing? Again, I don't say, tell me how, what happened, how'd you lose it? No, what does it feel like to lose the thing you lost? And then all of a sudden, the hammer drops at the other side, and now you got the internal conflict. It feels like this and this and this. Great. Now say the lines from there. And now you have what it feels like to be in love, and what it feels like to lose the love. Or like in this audition case for this part, it was joining the military, and because it said it in the description, but I knew this about the character, was like, they were proud to serve and to protect people, but the accident that happened, they actually hurt and killed people. It's like, so what's it like to protect people and serve people? And it's like, oh man, it feels like this is great. Now what's it like to then hurt people? You didn't save anybody, you hurt people. Right. Or one way I like to approach this when I'm working with actors is what's it like to love somebody? Oh, it feels like this and this and this. Great. Now what? And then I go, what would you do to somebody who hurt them? I'd kill them. I can't, like this. This is my favorite exercise. This will be a great place to leave off. This is my favorite exercise in creating internal conflict. How, have you ever, what does it feel like to love somebody? It feels like this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. What would you do to somebody who tried to hurt them or hurt them? Oh, I'd kill them, blah, 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 blah. Great. What if you were the one that hurt them? And then I can always see, every time I see the actor's kind of brain and emotions shatter in a million pieces, because it's like, it's easy to go, I love this person and I would protect them like a child. If I had, if you have a child, I would protect them and I'd never let anybody hurt them. What if you hurt them? What if you broke their heart? And then it's just this, you can just see the heart and the guts just twisting up inside. That's internal conflict. If you can apply that to your work, number one, you'll be amazed at what comes out and what you discover in your work and in yourself. But number two, like, nobody's going to be able to compete with that. And now I say, you're like, well, if everybody does it, like, no, because how you respond to that and how I respond to that, it's going to come out differently. But I tell you what, man, it's going to give you depth. It's going to give you so much depth in your character and in your read and your approach to it. And if you can just apply little things like that, the internal conflict, the love and the hate. So many people just want to go to hate, or they want to go to love. They're like, oh, I'm the good guy, so it's love. Oh, I'm the bad guy, it's all hate. No. Human beings are way too complex to label us, to just label it the good guy, the bad guy. I think most people are at a place in their life, no matter your age, just the consciousness of the world, we realize just how complex, or we're starting to realize how complex the human being actually is. It's not as cut and dry as we were, the 1950s, Leave It to Beaver taught us and taught our parents, and then who taught us, and on down the line. It's complex. It's very complex. And, maybe part of why actually I wrote this down a couple of days ago, but then I saw the new Thor Love and Thunder, and like that story all around, all the characters have to deal with this. It's not just like, I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy. It's a mixed bag of emotions from everybody, and why everybody's taking action. So it's worth seeing just for that study there. But yeah, so that's how you create internal conflict in your characters, and apply it. Who are they? How do I feel about them? I love them for all these reasons. Why? Who are they? How do I feel about them, and why? All these reasons. And then I hate them, or I despise them, or I loathe them. There's a lot of adjectives in there for all these reasons. And then when you're looking at your character's arc, you're going, well, I'm really angry about this stuff. Well, it's because, and again, that informs the relationships. I hate this person. Why do I hate this person? Well, because they took this person or this thing from me. Well, how did I feel about that person? See, I don't even have to hate this person. Here's my hand. I don't even have to hate this person. I just have to love this person so much and know that this person took them away or took it away, and therefore I'll hate them by default. So does it work for you? So that's why I say always start with love. Cool. I'm wrapping up here, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to send them over real quick. I'd be happy to answer. Thoughts, questions, concerns, anything like that. I'll take a beat, take a sip. If not, call it a day. No, it looks like I killed it again. Cool. So with that, I wish everybody an amazing week, a creative week, whether that's actually creating for those of you who do not take action, or those of you who do take action all the time, but actually need a break and need to create. I'll tell you, I'll leave you with this, because I think this just hit me. I heard the story about the Coen brothers, and if you don't know who they are, shame on you. But no, the Coen brothers, amazing duo who have created so many amazing things. Fargo is just like one of the few. My mind's blanking right now. Shame on me. The Coen brothers, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? They've created so many amazing bodies of work. But I did read a story where supposedly, and this could be a lie, but I don't think it is, but supposedly their wives made fun of them because most of their day they would lay on the couch and they'd be like, well, are you even, like, what are you doing? And from what I remember, this article they talked about was they would go to work, to their office where they would meet up, and they would discuss whatever they need to work on that day, whether it be they were in act 2 or a specific scene or a character. They would discuss what they need to figure out. And then they both had couches, and they would both just lay on the couch and they would just think about it and see what would come up. And they spent most of their working day laying down, just whether asking the universe or their imagination or God or whatever you want to call it. But they were like, here's the problem. Einstein talks about this, about how he would just present a problem and, he'd ask a question to himself and then just ponder it. And so they would lay down on the couch and just think about this, just think about the problem until the solution came, and then they'd start talking about that. So physical action is not always the best action. Like taking rest, using your imagination, using, like we used to do when we were kids and we would daydream all the time. And shame on the society and the people who shunned us and criticized us and punished us for drawing when we should have been listening to math equations, or we were looking out the window daydreaming, and trying to, enslave us. And they were successful in many ways, but no more. So, keep that in mind. There's productivity and action looks different to different people and depending on the situation. So hope you can take that with you. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and stay creative.